All right. It's been a year. We spoke exactly 1 year ago, second week of August 2020. Here we are. Natasha, Poole. Natasha, welcome to the show all over again for season 2. Thank you for agreeing to do this for the second season as well. I am super excited to speak with you. Welcome, listeners, to Natasha all the way from Australia. Welcome to the show, Natasha.
Thanks, Nishant. It's great to be back on the show after a year. So much has happened this past year as well. So it'll be great to catch up and hear how things have been for you and share how things have been over here in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while it feels like, we were just speaking a few months ago, but it's been a year, just doesn't feel like it yet. The entire world has changed because of COVID and the overall scenario in the world, climate change, world peace, all of these things have evolved. But here we are to speak a topic which we both are super passionate about, which is ultra fitness and triathlons.
Absolutely, yes. Even during these times with lockdowns and limited travel, I think one of the most important things one can do is stay healthy. So at least sport is a great outlet for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see a bike behind you. Is that your new triathlon bike? Tell us a little bit about it.
I'll
show us if you can.
If I can, if I don't get stuck in it.
It's all right.
Here it is. Yeah, just I've never ridden a time trial bike before, so because I've done the shorter distance racing previously, but entered a half Ironman next month, so invested in a time trial bike. And I've been riding it the past 2 weeks and getting used to it and enjoying going a bit faster than on the road bike.
Awesome. Congratulations. I think buying your first TT bike is always an emotional thing. And it's also important decision, it means that you're investing for the long term and you're taking it to the next level.
Absolutely. I feel like there's probably no going back now that I bought the bike and entered the first 70.3. You're more experienced at the longer distances than I am. So, but it seems like once you start, you get hooked quite quickly. So we'll see what happens from here.
Absolutely. I got a bike as well, Felt IA for the TT time trial bike for distances and speed. And I've been loving the experience. Just look at the weight. It is so
absolutely.
Sleek, right?
Yeah, the headset. It just looks like a machine.
It is. It's just that you have to develop your own machine to be able to just do justice to the machine that you have under.
Indeed, exactly. So now that I've got the new bike, I feel more inspired to do extra strength work, mobility work. The time trial bike requires a bit more flexibility than the road bike, different muscle activation sequences and things. So I'm just maybe being a bit more mindful of that myself. So it's a good thing.
Absolutely. All right. So let's jump directly into our conversation. Australia has put in a lot of measures in terms of the domestic as well as international travels, and I believe that there are certain cities which still have lockdown. So how has this period been for you in terms of travels and trainings and racing in general?
Well, training fortunately has been relatively unaffected. I'm in Queensland. Australia has a few different states which are about the size of many other countries. It's such a large country. And Queensland, where I live, has probably been in one of the best situations. We've had very few lockdowns after the initial lockdowns last year. We did just end a week-long lockdown at the end of last week. Right. But due to our amazing location, I can still open water swim, I can still ride my bike from home, I can still run from home too. So training hasn't been impacted compared to other people has. And with regard to racing, a few races have been cancelled, yes. So races fitting for me has just become seeing is believing. So you enter a race, you train for it. If it goes ahead, it goes ahead. If it gets postponed, you do it at a later date. But we're lucky just to have some races scheduled. So I really can't complain too much. And extra time spent training, it's all like money in the bank, I suppose. So it doesn't do any harm.
Absolutely. You are trying to graduate into a new category. You've trained in New Zealand. You've trained in Australia. You've done a lot of international races across the world. Why this transition now, and what are your future plans around it?
Well, I'm the type of person who doesn't like to plan too much, I must admit. It's very good to have goals and ambitions, but sometimes I find we can become a bit restrictive with them. So I like to remain fairly open-minded, because as situations like COVID have shown, the unpredictable can happen like out of nowhere. So whilst you can have plans, I think it's good to have like a general direction which you want to head in, and trust in that, and then be open to the opportunities that eventuate along the way. So right now I'm, I guess, taking a chance at longer distance racing. Have this one race scheduled for next month, the half Ironman on the Sunshine Coast, and then depending on how that goes, we'll see what's possible after that.
Absolutely.
But in a 3 to 5 year long-term plan, yes, sport is a priority. I'd like to see how good I can get at the distance, and just enjoy the journey.
Absolutely. I think no pressure, considering that you like to go pro in categories that you like, but it's always good to explore the long form categories. I think that needs a different set of muscle groups, different mindset, different type of training, and different types of nutritional and training blocks itself. So I think it's always good that you're trying it out, and certainly all the best to you for your first 70.3 race next month.
Thank you. Well, as you know, with your coaching, that 70.3 is a different ball game to the shorter distance races, because there's so many other factors that can come into play, like the nutrition, as you just mentioned, just the sheer volume, duration of the race, and the pacing. So I think first view will just be a case of enjoying, finding my feet, and getting a feel for it.
Absolutely. No, it's always fun to try different formats, different types of races. This the preparation that you would have to do for this would be entirely different. The apparels that you'll be going in, the tri-suit that you'll be wearing would be very different. The number of gels that you'll be carrying would be very different to what you've been training for in your shorter format. So it's good. I appreciate as an athlete that brings variety in your arsenal, and also helps you to sort of rediscover the love of sport, because it's always good to bring in that kind of change in the workout regimen.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, just the freshness and newness of it all is what I'm enjoying most right now.
Awesome. Natasha, I happen to look at your Instagram stories and posts. I believe that you've just completed a book of yours. Tell us a little bit about your book. If you want to discuss, this is exclusively for Trifantry Chronicles. What is it all about, and what made you jump into writing?
Well, the book kind of happened fairly organically. The book was unplanned. My housemate actually I grew up writing a lot, had a fairly good education. I also have my own teaching business, so I teach a lot of students English. And a friend encouraged me to start writing a book, and I have edited other people's books and helped others write books, but never written my own. I've always thought, it's something I'll do when I get a bit older, but as it turned out, I started a bit earlier than expected, and it's a very short book, but it's probably of the genre psychology, modern philosophy, self-inquiry, just sort of anecdotal messages that I've compiled into chapters, which I feel people may find useful.
Nice. What's the stage the book at is right now, and when do you plan to launch it?
So the book has been written. I actually chose to handwrite the book. I feel like just putting pen to paper
old school.
It looks great, and it also I think you can get your ideas down better when you don't have like the barrier of technology in between as such. So yeah, I've written the book, I've typed up the manuscript, and the next stage is just submitting to publishers and publishing agents and taking it from there. So whether it takes 2 weeks or 2 years to find a publisher, I'm pretty patient, but pretty just determined. I think it's a good book, and I think there's a lot in there that people might find of interest or that they can relate to at any rate.
Wow, that's nice. And would you like to discuss the exact areas that the book touches upon, the general direction?
Yeah, sure. So some of the chapters relate to like different emotions, for example, different feelings that we have, things that we might be afraid of, things that hold us back. So it's all related to like the mind and the mental side of life.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So this could help people doing sport, people at various stages in life, people who are trying to achieve certain things, or just people who are trying to deal with the daily grind and they haven't never really questioned it. So yeah, I think the book is there's a lot of variety within the book, a lot of different topics that I touch on, and I think if one chapter can help one person, then I'll have like achieved my goal in writing it.
Yeah. Remember when we had this conversation about a year ago, that's exactly what we were discussing, that regardless of how many people watch this, even if we've motivated one individual, one woman, one kid, one man to take up the sport of triathlon or marathons, our work here would be done. So that's, I think, that first principle kind of a thinking, thinking to add value to others. That's a great initiative. And I can assure you, being a content creator and, a writer on probably the short form content on LinkedIn, it is so damn difficult to write even 1,000 words, and let alone, probably 100, 150 pages that you might have written. It's congratulations to you to be able to take that path and finish it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, and now that the first book's written, I'm actually quite keen to keep writing. So, yeah, it's nice when you open the door to something.
Okay, tell me, I've always had this, fascination about writing books, because I like to read a lot. And I think once you start getting into reading, you also want to share, and you're creating content on the other platforms. How can I get started to, pen down my thoughts? I've had a couple of thoughts regarding ultra fitness, endurance, and helping people out who are just nascent in their journeys. What should be the couple of things, 5 things that I should look at for doing this?
So if you want to start writing, I think the beauty of writing is that all you need is a pen and a piece of paper. So first of all, do what my housemate did for me. Go out and buy a nice workbook that you can use, and have that specifically for your triathlon writing or your coaching tips, whatever you wish to include in there. Just write a title page, write the date, write your name, and then maybe just write down like a chapter each day. That's almost what I did, and I ended up writing my whole book in only a month. I wrote 2 chapters a day, wrote a whole book in a month, and it just completely flew by. It felt like I hadn't even done anything yet. This book had popped up out of nowhere. So the key is, like with training, a little bit often and consistency. So when you have an idea, just get it down. And this is what I encourage my students to do as well when I'm teaching. So don't worry about how it's written down. Just get the idea down before you lose it. You can always edit it afterwards.
Oh, all right. You made it sound quite simple, but how do you go about the process of research and references and, bringing out the technical part of it when you're just writing it down with your hand? Probably when you're typing it on a system, on a Word file, you can have those references, copy paste, or a lot of these kind of things. How do you manage that perspective?
Absolutely.
And is that something that should be a hindrance to start writing?
No, definitely not. I'd say leave that side of things till later. But the first stage is getting one's ideas down and keeping them fresh. Because if you try and do both at once, it can become a bit conglomerated, a bit confusing. You lose the essence of the thought and the idea, which is what made it special in the first place. So first start off with just, if you have a great idea about training, write it down in whatever shape or form. And if you have some notes that you want to add to it, maybe just have them in a document on the computer. Then when it comes to typing it up, type up your original notes and then link them to the sources that you want to combine them.
Sounds a lot like how you plan your training blocks, right? On Training Peaks or any of the apps that are there, you break it down in different sets of blocks of training, and then you break it down to macro cycles, then micro cycles, and then you start measuring on a daily and a weekly basis. Is that how is it a good approach? I feel that approach applies to a lot of areas of life, helps you to get stuff done.
Absolutely. I think breaking anything down into small and manageable pieces is an excellent idea. Often when we think about the big picture, it appears overwhelming. So if I said to myself, okay, tomorrow I'm going to sit down and write a whole book, the thought would probably prevent me from doing that. But if I said to myself, okay, tomorrow I'm just going to sit down and write 2 pages in this journal, what would come out would be amazing, probably, in comparison to if I sat there thinking, oh gosh, I've got to write this whole book. So break things down into small, manageable chunks, do a small amount each day or every other day, and then look back in a month's time or 2 months' time, and you'll be amazed at what you can achieve.
Yeah, true, right? This is amazing. In fact, I am actually feeling motivated to start something right away. I'm not even kidding. It's not for the podcast. Just 2 friends having conversation, and I'm feeling motivated by you that, this is actually doable. One puts so much thoughts and minds and whatnot, the plans that you'll probably think of writing 20 things. I'll do this, and then when you start working at it, it feels like, oh man, this cannot be done. But the way you've described it, it seems like training for a race which is coming up, and that, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got to enjoy each individual moment rather than thinking about the big thing and the end result, because then, the end result takes care of itself if you just appreciating each step along the way.
Yeah, that's nice. Good to learn that the training principles of triathlon can be applied to other areas of life as well in such a structured way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sport has taught me so much about life generally. So sport is just a microcosm for life. What I learn in training and the mental side of things, which I'm learning, just scratching on the surface of it in training, has helped me so much in life generally too. So, and just the discipline and patience that it teaches one.
Yeah, absolutely.
We easily lose in today's world when everything's so disposable and we can have everything so quickly. Yet some things, they do require time and patience and work. So I think sport is a great way to learn that, and then it can help other areas of life. So I don't think I would have written a book if I hadn't done triathlon. So not that the book is even remotely about triathlon, but the things I learned in the book, I learned through triathlon. So yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think sports teaches you that you have to work hard for the things that you're trying to acquire, and it's not going to be, no matter what equipment you have, no matter how much resources you have, what kind of coaches you have, whatever resources you have will not get you there unless you put in the work. And the most important learning also from sports is that once you've reached there, and if you take it for granted, it's not going to be there the next day. You start losing it if you do not go out, practice, take care of your process, take care of the entire recovery, on all of that, respect each of the pillars of training. You can lose it, and no amount of millions or billions can actually let you cross that finish line over and over again if you do not put in that effort and hard work, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So you don't need to become obsessive, but you don't need to, you can't take anything for granted in life either. Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're inspired to write. So I look forward to reading your work.
Oh, damn you. That's so much pressure. I was just thinking of doing something and that's all right. Probably, I think what we should do is we should schedule the next episode for the podcast and then share notes. Probably because you've edited so many people's books, I would actually keep a manuscript and send a draft copy to you for your inputs.
It would be a privilege to edit it. I love editing other people's works because, you get an insight. I love language, love literature, and it'd be amazing to help you with your writing too.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of pressure, but also encouragement, I would say.
Take the encouragement side of things, not the pressure.
No, pressure is good. Pressure is a privilege. If someone puts pressure on you, means that they expect something out of you, because they know that that person is putting trust in your abilities to deliver something. So they're just pushing you to do slightly better. So pressure, I feel, is a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. It just means that someone believes that you're capable of doing something.
Yeah. All right, segueing to the next section of the discussion, which is around the relationship of food and how you treat your food and what food means to you, not just in your training, but when you're not training, the other times. What are the things that you take care of? General principles about consumption, diet, and your thoughts on processed foods.
Well, I'm still learning so much about food. I feel like it's an ongoing process of learning, like with anything in life or just health generally. It's constantly evolving. And as one's body changes as well, and as the type of training one does changes, one's nutritional requirements also change too. So plus like the climate you live in, well, you've got all of these different factors. So the optimal, I suppose, diet as such is never like a fixed thing. So I think it's good to have variation. Just like in training, it's not sensible to do the same training every single week. You're never going to get the results you want. But with food is an interesting one because there's so much information out there about nutrition and about diet. I think it's easy for people to get confused. And I just think, as an athlete, athletes try and overcomplicate things sometimes. So for me, just simplifying things has helped a lot. I've been fortunate to work with an amazing sports nutritionist as well over the past year and a half. And so she's really helped me just get the basics right with my nutrition, because I know that was a factor which in the past would have made me hesitant about doing a long distance race, just because I felt like I didn't trust how responsive I was to different foods. And I know once you start the longer distance races, nutrition can literally make or break your race. Whereas in a shorter distance race, you can get away with not having anything, just staying hydrated, and you're not going to have any digestive issues. You're not going to run out of energy. You can still race to the best of your ability. Whereas with the longer course races, it's a pretty important factor. So my advice when it comes to food is really just get the basics right. Don't be too restrictive as well. I know like a lot of athletes sometimes, sport attracts perfectionism. And I think that can be a bit of a trap because life is not perfect. You're never going to have the perfect race. But if you can get close to it, it's going to be an amazing race. But you've got to accept that you're going to have some bad experiences along the way too. So the same applies with nutrition. You can't be perfect 100% of the time. You need to allow your body to be in a fairly adaptive state so that you're more resilient. And then your body can absorb whatever you're putting into it. Yeah, so I think variety is what it comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. I will actually use that quote everywhere, which you just said is life is not perfect, but it's always good to get as close to the perfection as possible. So yeah, I think that's how our relationship with food also evolves, with age, with your gender, with your current body goals or racing goals. This continues to evolve, and if you have same mindset to not change over a period of time, I think that kind of goes against your performances as well, and then you're not able to maximize the output of the consumed food, right? If you are focusing on the set patterns and set beliefs, that's not going to take you very far.
Exactly. It can become too restrictive from a mental point of view too. So really you want to be putting in as little thought as possible into what you're putting into your body, but trusting that it's healthy enough, it's broad enough to provide you with a range of nutrients that are going to support the tax that you're putting on your body through training.
True. And I think consuming food, eating every single day, you're doing it 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. And if you're not knowing exactly what you're putting, and if you do not have a plan regarding your consumption, I think you're not going to go very far again. It's important. It affects your body, it affects your hormones, it affects your moods, it affects your performance, and results are just, I think, at the end of the funnel. That's just the culmination of what you've been doing in past many weeks, months, and years put together.
Yeah, absolutely. So like with anything, it needs to be sustainable. So you can't be eating the wrong foods all of the time because your blood sugar levels are going to be all over the place in a race that's going to equal a disaster. Your energy levels are going to be fluctuating so much, whereas you just want to maintain that consistency. But it's good every now and then to, eat the odd unhealthy food, just relax a bit and have a few treats, because life's too short not to, I feel.
Enjoy and indulge.
Yes. There's a time and a place for everything.
Absolutely. All right. So there's a very famous quote which says that your body is 70% of what you eat and 30% workout when it comes to fitness. Do you believe in that? How important is food? And is there a percentage which you can pinpoint or put to it?
Well, I do teach maths, but I wouldn't say that I could calculate that. I think
maths and psychology.
Yes, broad range of subjects. So I think what you're referring to really would be accurate in the context of your weight. So your weight is probably 70% what you put inside your body, and some people would even argue 100% really what you put inside your body, and 30% what training or exercise you do. So for the average person who's just trying to stay healthy, yes, food is a really important part, but a healthy amount of exercise too. For an athlete, if you're thinking more competitively, I don't think it's necessary to get too caught up on body image, because there's no one size fits all when it comes to being the perfect weight to race in a specific sport or discipline, especially sports without weight categories. So really what you need to be doing is just monitoring how you feel, monitoring your energy levels, learning to be honest with yourself, and having a healthy relationship with food, I think.
Yeah. So it's not 70% for sure, is it?
I don't think so, no. No.
I think people who are on a structured training program, such as yourself or me or my athletes, we can get away with a few things by probably going here and there sometimes. But for an average Joe who's not on a structured program, who's not going out there, it's important to regulate something which you are consuming every single day. If you're not going out and putting in 5 hours a week for your workouts, of course you should be regulating the other 3 to 4 hours which you're spending in a day on food and food preparation, right? So I think in that case, for an average person, that principle may or may not apply. I would not put a number 70% versus 30% on it, but a fairly large portion of putting time investment would go into knowing what exactly you're putting in your body rather than just considering that it's food, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think if someone's just thinking about general health, food is hugely important. You can see the effect that food has on inflammation, on immunity, and on all of these basic things which we sometimes take for granted. So and as an athlete, when you're putting your body under stress and doing a lot of training, you see a lot of athletes getting colds all the time, or just little illnesses, and food, I think, is a major factor in preventing those.
Absolutely, yes, 100%. Yeah. I've seen most often even an experienced athlete would not take up their annual or biannual vitamin analysis tests or calcium tests or various types of deficiency, or even the general blood culture test which tells you what are your hemoglobin levels or what are your general markers. And this is so important, which are things which can actually be corrected with food.
Absolutely, yeah. So you should be aiming to fix things with food rather than supplements first of all.
True,
Yes.
true. Also, I think, again, I mean, coming to that point, depends the kind of places you are in, the kind of foods that you do have access to, the kind of fruits, and, most importantly, your perspective towards food. If you are into packaged foods, processed foods, or foods that you probably get in malls, if that is your first go-to food, then of course I think those are markers which will always be off, regardless of what program you are on.
Yeah, definitely. So half of it's training probably, and half of it's how you're looking after the recovery basically, which involves food, sleep, hydration, your stretching, your mobility work, I guess like mental rest too. So you've got, and having like a bit of a balance in life outside of sport. So you've got all of these things which are just as important as the training. So you can train the house down every single day, but it won't last for very long if you're not bearing in mind these other factors.
Yeah, sure. A related question to this is, if anyone's listening who's looking to lose a few kilos, what will be your advice to them?
Write a food diary. It teaches you to be honest about what you're eating, and you can also then externalize it and put it in perspective. So if you write a food diary for 2 weeks and see what you're eating every day for breakfast, lunch and dinner, plus your snacks, you'll see where the extra weight is coming from, and you'll see why you're not losing weight. But you'll also be able to see, okay, well, what can I take out without causing too much disruption to my routine or what I like, but also getting the results that I want.
Sure. Do you use any particular app for tracking your food, or is it actually physically writing it down? How is it?
I think when I've done food diaries, because I like writing things down, as you probably gathered,
we understood from earlier conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I like the good old handwritten food diary, but I also think that it's not necessarily a good idea to do these things indefinitely, because I know that can create an unhealthy relationship with food too, especially in younger people, where really food just needs to be like a medium to like living a healthy life, not something that we get too obsessed about. And because we have such an abundance of food in the Western world and in like the privileged world, we tend to take that for granted sometimes. So yeah, there's heaps of apps out there which you can use, but I wouldn't depend on them. You really just need to have a rough idea of what you're putting in your body, and be honest with yourself and see, okay, well, I'm trying to lose weight, but I'm still eating this every day. Sure. I'm still eating 2 serves of ice cream every day. Is that helping me? Probably not. So why don't I just cut it down to 1, see if it makes a difference. You don't have to suddenly starve yourself of certain things, but you shouldn't be having, if you're not getting what you want when it comes to weight loss, then you're probably going to have to make some compromises.
Absolutely. I second with you. It's a very valid point that you've come forward with, which is not really paying too much attention for a very long time. Because if let's say you start tracking everything and then you become obsessive and all your discussions are around calories and, this has this much calories. And honest confession, I think sometimes even I tend to do that, because, when you're going out, you're looking at really high calorie dense kind of foods, and you then start calculating, oh, this is probably 700 calories, 800 calories. And then that starts playing with your mind. You're not even enjoying in the moment, and then you're feeling guilty, but it's not stopping you from not doing it all over again. So it's important that you get onto it for a few weeks, maybe a month, 2 months, reach your goal, and then move on. Probably by then you would also have developed a better habit of consumption.
Exactly. You want to be enjoying what you're doing at the end of the day, but not overindulging too. So I think that, I've seen so many people get into that obsessive state of mind where they're constantly counting things, and it's actually just as bad as, I think, being in the position where you're overweight and overindulging in the wrong foods. That you can go to the opposite extreme. So I think finding like the middle ground is the best way forwards.
What I have personally found interesting and challenging, and I'm not asking anyone who's listening to this or watching this is not to replicate this at home or anywhere, is that last 15 odd years I've had I used to be quite heavy on the heavier side. You can't use words like fat and all these days. But I used to be on the very heavier side. So I lost around 70 pounds when this was back in 2005. And since then, I've tried to maintain a particular weight. But then I've also found that if you continue to obsess about a particular exact weight or a couple of kgs here and there, then it just plays with your mind. So I used to put this as a challenge every single year. Eat whatever you want to eat for a few months. And then, when you've probably gained some 5, 6, 7 kilos extra, and then you start working out again. So you constantly have this challenge throughout the year that it's going up and down and up and down. So then you continue to work out, continue to take care of it. This is not scientifically proven, but I've been doing this for many, many years, and it works, because then you can, in your off season, you can literally eat everything, but then come back and then work twice as hard. Some will say that it is retrospective. You're not, going for the 6-pack abs and all that, but I don't believe in that.
Well, I don't think it's healthy to be too lean for too long, really lean for too long, because you will actually end up losing muscle mass. You'll disrupt your hormone levels. You'll put the body under too much stress for too long. So I think it's important, with everything in life, just to have a bit of fluctuation. And depending on what type of training you're doing as well, your muscle mass is going to change. So just looking at the weight on the scales is, definitely enough to play with your mind, because it's not indicative of your muscle mass and your body composition, or where you're at in your training plan, or you if you're during the, say, 2-month binge which you're having, then you don't want to be weighing yourself and reading too much into the number, because you just got to trust yourself that it's not going to go on forever, and it's just part of you balancing out the fact that perhaps you were slightly on the leaner side beforehand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. All right then. So we've reached the end of our discussion. To a quick rapid fire round, I'm going to be asking a few questions. You have to answer them very quickly. All right.
Okay, I'll just try and think as quickly as possible.
All right. Here we go. Question 1. What are the 3 races that you would want to do or you imagine to do in the next 1 or 2 years?
Sunshine Coast 70.3 next month.
All right.
Maybe Cairns half Ironman. That's in Northern Australia.
All right.
Maybe Taupo half Ironman. That's in New Zealand.
All right. Okay. I think that's in November, right?
Maybe. You probably know better than me, but with travel restrictions right now, whether it's this year or next year, is ultimately
Sure. All right. Question 2. What is your current favorite sport out of the 4 disciplines? Swim, bike, run, and strength conditioning.
It's always been the run. It's always been the run,
but not with your new sexy TT bike. Is that
even with the sexy TT bike? I love running so much, but I love cycling and I love swimming as well. So yeah, I'm spoiled for choice.
All right. What is your current favorite timing or watch brand, and what brand is it? What watch is it?
Right now I'm wearing a Chorus watch, but I actually don't like training with data too much.
Okay.
That's personal preference. Yeah.
But Chorus, what particular model is it?
Chorus Pace, PACE.
All right.
Yeah. It's been quite versatile. You can use it in the open water, use it when running, use it on a bike, use it for heart rate. All
right. What are your favorite foods when you're in race or in training nutrition? What are the few go-to foods for you?
During training, I like to eat a lot of dates.
All right. What else?
That's probably it. So this morning I did a 3-hour bike ride. I literally just ate dates during it. I was going to take a couple of gels, but I find the simple foods better. All right. I'm just going to go with that one answer for now. Yeah. Seem to eat a lot of dates during training. Or sometimes sports drinks, but not very often. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Last question, and this might need you to think for 5 seconds. Where do you see yourself in 50 years from now? Would you be still racing somewhere in the world? Would you be on Mars? Would you cycle on the moon? However, how do you think your next 50 years would be? 2070.
Wow, I'll be 82 years old. I have not thought that far into the future. Yeah, I guess I'd love to still be active. Like if I can be swimming when I'm 82 years old and just going for walks and maybe the odd jog if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
And yeah, doing a bit of bike riding. It doesn't have to be triathlon necessarily, but just enjoying being outdoors and in nature. I'll be happy.
All right. That's an honest answer. Thank you so much, Natasha, for your honest answers and being throughout the conversation. Any parting shots, any thoughts you would like to leave our viewers and listeners today?
Well, if people would like to know more about the book, they're more than welcome to get in touch. People would like to hear more thoughts about nutrition or about training, or just share their own experiences. I love talking to and meeting new people. So yeah, don't hesitate to get in touch.
Absolutely. I will put all the links in the show notes. You can get in touch or follow Natasha on Instagram at Natasha Poole 13, which is spelled as NATASHAPOOLE 13. All right. Thank you so much, Natasha, for doing this. I've had a wonderful experience to have you on the show once again. Exactly 1 year ago, we spoke, and I'm so happy to have you again.
Thank you so much, Nishant. It's been amazing to see you and to be back on the show and to share our experiences from the past year.
Thank you. Listeners. You've been patient if you've been watching the entire show or listening till here. Continue to train, endure, conquer. Follow Trifantry on YouTube, Instagram, and continue to train, continue to break the barriers of your mental and physical health. All right. Train, endure, conquer.